All right, guys, our next topic in ecology and our last one is biodiversity. This topic is pretty important, so we'll kind of go through the slides here together for your assignment for today. And then throughout this week and next week, we'll be having fun little activities to get to know it a little bit better. Okay, so what exactly is biodiversity? This refers to the variety of organisms in the biosphere. So we're looking at um, different types. So an area that would be very diverse or have a lot of biodiversity would be like the ocean. There's a lot of species there, or like a tropical rainforest. An area that would be very low on biodiversity would be things like the desert. There's not a lot of wildlife there, or something like the tundra. Remember, that's very cold temperatures. There's not a lot of wildlife there. So why is it important? Biodiversity is one of Earth's greatest natural resources, and I'll show you here in the next few slides. We get a lot of things from ecosystems that are very diverse. For example, foods. Think of all the variety of foods, industrial products, medicine. So we use a lot of our antidepressants and painkillers come from areas like the tropical rainforest, and there's even cures for cancer that could be out there. We just don't know. So it's really important that we preserve biodiversity. Okay, now obviously there's going to be some threats. You can guess who is it all caused by? These slides are going to make you mad at humans. They're caused by humans. So I'm going to give you a second. Think about what are some threats that we cause to wildlife and biodiversity. So take a few minutes. We're going to talk about four main ones. I'm going to give you a second. Think about it. Okay, let's see how you guys did. The first one is altering habitats. Next is poaching or hunting species to extinction. Introducing toxic compounds into food webs. So if you said pollution, that one kind of goes under here. And introducing foreign species to new environments. Again, all of these are caused by humans, unfortunately. So let's break it down. The first one is habitat alteration. When land is developed, natural habitats may be destroyed. And when will we develop lands? Building new subdivisions, a new school, malls. Anytime we're building something, we're destroying an ecosystem that was once there. Sometimes we split ecosystems into pieces, and this is called habitat fragmentation. The smaller the area, the fewer species can live there. So they'll start competing, and then other species are going to either die out there or they're going to have to move to a different area. But when we develop something in between an ecosystem, it does kind of split them up into pieces. Okay, here's the other one. Obviously, that is our fault. Demand for wildlife products. Some species are hunted to extinction for food or other products, which is a huge problem. Okay, why might someone hunt a species that is so exotic? Well, in some parts of the world, they need their meat for food. The fur, the hides, sometimes they think they have medicinal properties, and it's really hard to enforce these bans on hunting in remote areas. And so some examples are medicinal properties, or this one is just coming to mind. In Asia, it's really sad. Sharks, they're a huge part of the ocean ecosystem. I know they're seen as dangerous, but they kind of keep the balance in the ecosystem, in the marine ecosystem. And what they do is they will cut off the fin, just the fin, and the shark can't swim, and it'll sink down to the bottom, and it'll just kind of die because it can't swim or go anywhere without its fin. And all they use is the little tiny fin for shark fin soup. So we really need to be thinking about what we're doing when we're overfishing and hunting wildlife. And for example, I'm sure you guys have seen rhinos and elephants that are being killed just for their tusk. And it's quite sad because maybe your children or your grandchildren or great grandchildren might only be able to see some of these species in a book because they might be extinct by that time. So it's really up to you guys to really promote biodiversity, and we have to try to help prevent these threats. Um, oh, also a fun fact about the hunting. I found out that elephants are actually they're starting to evolve to not have tusk because the ones that have them are getting killed. And actually, they've discovered there's this pink dye where they can dye the tusk of an elephant, and it turns it pink, and it destroys the ivory. So that way, hunters, they're not going to shoot them down because um their tusks are completely useless at that point. So that's one way we're trying to protect them. Okay, pollution. This is huge. Toxic compounds can accumulate in the tissues of organisms. Okay, as you move up the food chain, the toxin becomes more concentrated. This is called biological magnification. So I'll show you an example here. Okay, DDT, that's a type of chemical, and ppm is parts per million. So once, let's say, a factory, some of the DDT leaked into the water or the ocean, wherever it is that we're looking at. It is only 0.000003 parts per million, so not really that harmless. As it works its way into the zooplankton, it goes up 10 million times to 0.04. Again, still seems small, so they're okay. Goes up to some smaller fish. Now we're looking at 0.5. It's starting to look a little bit dangerous. The large fish gets 2, and then the bird gets 25. So by the time it gets to the bird, a lot of the birds are dying from these high level of toxins. Humans also can get sick from that, but this is also why, remember, we talked about mercury that can be found at high concentrations. That's why women, when they're pregnant, shouldn't eat large fish, because it has high levels of chemicals that are involved. And that can be dangerous for developing embryo. Here's just another magnification showing that it increases as you go up the food chain. Mercury, that's the one I was talking about. We can get high mercury levels when we're eating fish, but especially for women that are pregnant, they try to tell you to avoid like large shark, tuna, and like the bigger fish that we see. But that's not just all with pollution, guys. That's concentration, but any other type of pollution can really disturb or cause mutations in species. And it's, we'll talk about this later this week, or possibly next week. But there will be a slide where we'll talk about current events. So think of right now with COVID-19, there are not a lot of people out. And actually, we are starting to see tons of, well, I guess less pollution. And wildlife is going crazy. I don't know if you guys, and I'm hoping these are the current events that we're going to pick out some current events for you guys, but there are species in Venice right now, because Italy's been pretty locked down, that dolphins are actually coming up to the canals, where before they wouldn't see them out until way out in the ocean there. Oh shoot, I forgot what area this was. There was some beach that was very populated, and now there are tons of turtles and eggs being hatched of turtles. And so population numbers are skyrocketing right now. So I'm hoping by the end of all this, we start looking at how we can continue to help the species, because right now they're flourishing because we're staying inside. Okay, and the last one is introduced species. This is something known as invasive species, and we'll spend a little bit more time on this later in the week. But when organisms are introduced into an area, they often lack the parasites and predators that control their population. Okay, what happens if they have no predators, they have no parasites, they have plenty of resources, they're going to reproduce rapidly, and major changes are going to happen to the ecosystem. It could even cause native species to become extinct, and these are known as invasive species. So we could start seeing some extinction of species around them, because they have nothing going against them, no predators, no parasites. So what are some examples? We have a few here. The first one is zebra mussels. This is a huge barge here. That's a ship. All of these are zebra mussels. So what happened is they would dock in one area, and the barge would travel to a different location. And what happens is the zebra mussels would attach, and then when they go to the area, they would come out. And that's not normally their area. And these grow crazy in this area, and then it can cause water ducts, a lot of different issues that they're having there. Jumping carp. We actually have this, the jumping Asian carp in the Missouri rivers. They completely outran the other fish population that are there. So a lot of people will go boating, and they literally jump up like this and they catch them and try to take out as many as they can. But there's so many in the rivers. Kutsu. This completely grows out of control. I will have to double check, but we are watching a video later in the week that talks about that. A lot of people liked it for decoration, so they brought it down to the south, but then it completely, they call it the plant that ate the south, completely took over buildings and things like that. Leafy spurge, that's just like yellow flower here. Notice it's all over the meadow. It's competing for all the grass and other flowers in that area for sunlight and nutrients, so you can see it kind of overtakes there. Honeysuckle, we actually have this here in St. Louis. There's a park, and they ask for volunteers every year to come in and just pick as many as they can, because again, it outcompetes the other plants that are living there. Starlings, types of bird in flight. I'm sure you guys have seen that before. And then varroa mites, they're actually killing the honeybees. And you guys know how important bees are. Bees kind of help, they make honey, but they help with pollination. Without them, we'd be in a lot of trouble. But there's these little varroa mites, kind of looks like little ticks here, and they do actually attack honeybees. So all these threats, we talked about hunting, pollution, altering habitats, and invasive species. There are consequences. And if you've been to the zoo before, we're only going to talk about 3 levels, but the zoo actually, I think, has like 6 or 7, like nearly endangered slightly, but we're just going to do the main ones. But this is what happens when we don't take care of biodiversity in our species. So it could get put on the threatened list, and there's unfortunately a lot of species that are on there. They're actually close to becoming endangered species. We have a lot on the endangered species list. And then they're actually up to the next step. They're endangered of becoming extinct. And unfortunately, because of humans, a lot of species have become extinct. They're no longer in existence, and there's nothing we can do to bring them back. So I hope you guys thought this was interesting. We're going to be spending the next 2 weeks on biodiversity, and it's a really fun topic. We'll get to look at a lot of cool stuff this week.